Hello and welcome back. In this video, we are going to create another Docker file, but the Docker file we want to create will be the Docker file used in production. Now, when it comes to creating Docker images and containers and whatever with your Docker file, size really matters, okay? Here, what we just did was we just added the required commands and they will create the stage. Remember, each of these lines right here represents a stage in Docker, okay? So, and it could be that the stage could require maybe a lot of space. The size of that particular stage might be huge, okay? Yeah, for us, this we just have very few commands, but it's very appropriate or very good that your Docker file for production is usually optimized. And in that case, we are going to use the multi-stage Docker file for our production Docker image. Okay, so go ahead, create a new file, call it dockerfile. Okay, just dockerfile.dev would be for local development, while dockerfile will be for production. Okay, so the first thing is we use the same node image. Okay, we use the same node image. Now with this, the idea of this multi-stage is you create multiple stages. Okay, probably you can have one stage that runs npm install. You can and then in the next stage, the result of that npm install will be used in the next stage. Okay, so for example, you could have stage 1. Okay, you could have stage 2 as an example. You could have stage 3. Okay, so in stage 1 you run npm install. Okay, npm install. Okay, and you know this will create the package JSON to create a node module. Okay, and then the result of this stage 1, you then use it in stage 2. Okay, so in stage 2 you don't have to run npm install anymore. Okay, you just run, maybe you run npm run build in stage 2. Okay, and probably that is just all you want to do. And then in stage 3 you might run another command. Okay, maybe run a production build instead of npm install. Maybe here you can run, as an example, npm ci. Okay, so if you run npm ci, it's only going to install the where's your package JSON. Or if you run with the production flag, then it's going to install only the dependencies, not dev dependencies. Remember, dev dependencies are really just for your local development. Okay, so maybe here you want to run npm install. Maybe here you want to run a test. You want to just run some tests. Here in stage 3 you want to run your build, and then stage 4 just like that. Okay, now the last stage, maybe you have a stage 4. Okay, stage 4 then will be the last stage. That will be actually what we create your image. Okay, and then probably there are some resources that you have removed that you have in all of these stages, but you don't have in your last stage. So in your last stage, which will create the actual image, the size will be less compared to if you just run everything in one stage. Okay, so that is just the idea of multi-stage Docker file. Okay, so that is what we are going to use, but for our own case we are going to have only 2 stages. Okay, so the first stage, work directory, we create app. Okay, let me just copy what we have here from our Docker file. Okay, so I'll copy all of this. Okay, so we create the work directory. Okay, but before then we need to name this stage, so we call this as builder or whatever you want to call this. Okay, so if we want to make reference to this stage, we are going to use this builder identifier right here. Okay, so here we create a new directory. We copy package JSON tsconfig.npmrc. We copy our source, and then I want to install npm. I noticed probably it might be different with this version. Okay, but the version I used while working on preparing for this course, it was not installing like the latest version of npm, and so Docker was complaining. Okay, so just to be on the safe side, I believe maybe this version will come with the latest version of npm, but to be on the safe side, I will run npm install -g npm at latest. Okay, so maybe you might decide you want to use Node.js long-term version. I think long-term version is around version 20.9 or something. If you use a version that is not the current, it might not install the latest version of npm. So just to be on the safe side, you can run this command. It will always install the latest version of npm. Okay, and then we run another command, run ci. Okay, ci, and then we want to run, let me use run npm ci and npm run build. Okay, so we run npm ci and then npm run build. Now this is the first stage. It's almost exactly what we have here, except for the install node daemon. Okay, and then we now go to the next stage. This next stage is the stage that will create the actual image that we need. Okay, so I'll say I will use this from command, okay, using the same node version, and then we create our working directory. Then what I want to do is, because once we get to Kubernetes, I want to be able to test some endpoints from within our cluster. Okay, so from within our container. Remember that the way we implemented our services, only the health service can be accessed from outside. Every other service, you only access them from within the cluster. Okay, so I will explain to that when we get to that point, but we need call. So I will run apk add -- no cache call. Okay, so remember we are using the Alpine version. So because we are using Alpine version, we have access to apk, and then we are using it to install call in the container. Okay, and then we need to copy this right here. Okay, and then yeah, we can install also, we can install npm, so we have the latest, and then we want to run the production installation. So run npm ci -- production. So what this flag means is we don't want to install dev dependencies. Okay, we only want to install the dependencies. So with this, it's since the dev dependencies will not be installed, the node modules folder size will reduce a bit. Okay, so we don't need this for production, we only need this right here. Okay, so that is why we are adding npm ci and then -- production. Sometimes you might see npm install. Okay, but the reason why we are adding ci is because we are going to run this in our CI/CD pipeline. Okay, and then the next thing we need to do is we need to use the build that was created here. Okay, so use the build that was created here, and we can do that with copy -- from. Then where do we want to copy from? Builder. Okay, that is the name of the first stage, and then we want to copy app/build, and then we want to copy it to the build folder. This is supposed to be in uppercase. Okay, so with this now we copy the content of our build right here. So here we don't need to run any npm run build here already. With this, it already built. Okay, and then with the build folder that is generated, whatever your folder is, if your folder is dist, because mine, the way we implemented is build, that is why I'm using build right here. If yours is dist, then you need to set it on whatever your output folder is. Okay, and then expose 4001, and then command. Now the command we want to run is npm run start. Now we don't have it here. We are going to add it to the script, but right now at this point in time, this is what we need. This is how our Docker image for our production will look. One thing we need to add is for the production build or production, we are going to use PM2. Okay, so PM2 is like a process manager. We are not going to use nodemon. We are not going to use just node, the name of the file. We are going to use PM2, and we need to install PM2 in the container globally. So on this line where you have npm install -g, we want to install npm. You can add PM2. Okay, so add this PM2, it will install it in the container as well. We don't need it here. Okay, we don't need PM2 here, but you can install it here as well. Okay, but we are installing it globally in the container, not just in the service itself. Okay, so this is what we need. Go ahead and add all of these lines, and then once we get to the parts where we need to push, we'll push, create our image.